Good morning. I'm Jeff Davis, Executive Director of the MSU Alumni Association. It's my pleasure to welcome all of our viewing audience this morning to Bulldog Bites, our virtual speaker series featuring MSU faculty, staff, researchers, and alumni. Today's installment of Bulldog Bites, MSU Graduate School, where learners become leaders. Our featured speaker this morning is Lindsey Shelton. Lindsey is a proud MSU alumna who has 2 degrees from MSU, a Bachelor of Interdisciplinary Studies and a Master of Art in Teaching and Community College Education. Lindsey began her career with MSU in 2005 as a Gulf Coast-based admissions counselor. She then became Director of Orientation Events and served in that role for 7 years. She then decided to live abroad for a little over a year, traveled the world and volunteered at an English language school and a refugee camp in Cyprus. Upon returning back stateside, she worked for both EMCC as Mayhew campus and Southern Miss's Gulfport campus in the realm of recruitment. And then we were fortunate to get Lindsey back to MSU in 2019, and she currently serves as the Graduate School's Manager of Admissions and Enrollment Management and is pursuing her PhD in Educational Leadership. Joining Lindsey this morning from our staff is Orly Harden, who is our Assistant Director of Engagement and Recruitment Programs, and she'll serve as the moderator this morning. Orly joined MSU staff in 1998 with the Comptroller's Office. She then spent 8 years in the Office of Admissions and Scholarships in a variety of roles, and she joined the team at the Alumni Association in 2007. In her current role, she works with our MSU Alumni Recruitment Network, the MSU Legacy Program, as well as our association campus-based and now virtual events as well. She holds a bachelor's degree in psychology from Emory University. Reminder to our viewing audience, both those on Zoom can use the Q&A or the chat feature to ask questions of Lindsey, as well as those that are following via Facebook Live. You can submit those questions in the comment section and our staff will relay those to Orly. But Lindsey, Orly, both of you, good morning and welcome to Bulldog Bites.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it. And Lindsey, I appreciate you being with us today. I think that you have a PowerPoint for us, so I will get the show on the road here and turn it over to you. And again, like Jeff said, if you all have questions, please go ahead and submit those and I will keep an eye on them. I'll also try to put some links that Lindsey refers to during her conversation in the chat. If you need that resource, I'll make sure that you can, that will be available to you.
Great. Thank you, Orly. Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate you inviting me to share today. And now I'm going to try to share my screen with everyone. And there we go. How's it look on y'all's end?
It's good. Good.
All right, great. All right, well, again, thanks for having me. As Jeff said, my name is Lindsey Shelton, and I work in the Office of the Graduate School at Mississippi State. And the purpose of today's Bulldog Bites is really to give you a snapshot of the application process and spend a little time talking about the statement of purpose. That's something we get a lot of questions about from prospective students, and then give you guys a chance to ask any questions that you might have. So let's get started. When you're considering graduate school, it can be really intimidating, and you want to be very thorough when you're going through the application process for any institution that you're applying to. If you're applying to multiple schools, you really need to dig deep because every school has their own process. So at Mississippi State, we encourage you to do your homework first. That means you need to research the program or programs that you're considering applying to. Not just what they have to offer, but what research is currently being done in those programs, because you're going to need to be able to tie in your activities from your undergrad and what you hope to do in the future to what they currently have going on. You also really need to find out what the program deadlines are. This is a common mistake for many of our prospects. Don't just look at the deadlines that are located on the university website. You need to look at the program deadlines because those supersede any deadline that might be posted by the university. For example, the university deadline for domestic students applying for fall, a start date in fall, is going to be August 1st. But many of the program deadlines have already passed and were March 1st. And so it's really important that you figure out what the program deadlines are for the degree that you're seeking. You'll see on the screen here, we've also got contact the graduate coordinator. You've got to build relationships with the people in these departments because you aren't just applying to Mississippi State, you're actually applying to the program. So it's quite the opposite of an undergraduate degree where you just had to meet certain requirements and you were in. Here, there are a limited number of seats. And so you have to actually make yourself stand out amongst the others that are applying. And one way to do that is to build these relationships. If you're not sure who your graduate coordinator is for your particular program of interest, you can go to the website, and I believe Orly is going to drop that in the chat. And so you can click on that and have that pulled up on your screen or take a screenshot of it so you can have it for later. When you go to that website, you can literally type in the name of the program. It'll pull up all the details of that program. It'll show you if there are master's degrees and or PhD programs in that department, and it'll give you the grad coordinator. This is where you're going to want to reach out, introduce yourself, let them know what you're interested in, and then tell them if you are looking for a graduate assistantship or if you're interested in particular research that's already being conducted in that department. They can help connect you to those professors, and then you can further build relationships from that point. Then you also want to consider scheduling a campus visit if you're not familiar with the Mississippi State campus. And this has been a little tricky given the COVID situation, but we are still offering in-person campus visits. I've listed Natalie Coates on here. She's the contact for that. You can also contact me and I can of course help you with that, but Natalie's great at scheduling these visits. And what a visit would typically include would be us connecting you with your department so you can meet with someone in the actual program you're interested in. And then we would also give you a walking tour of our campus. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the actual process itself. It's really just 3 steps. The first is going to be to submit your application. But to submit your application, you're going to need to have the names and addresses of 3 references. Now, it's important to pick your references carefully. Think of it as if you're applying for a job. You want to have professional references, people who can attest to your work ethic, your ability to work well with others, your persistence, your ability to overcome challenges. These are the sorts of people that you want to write reference for you. So you want to think about professors or instructors that you may have had during your undergrad experience, an advisor that you worked really closely with. Maybe it's a mentor, and maybe it's a supervisor in a job that you've had. A lot of the skills that you use in a job are transferable to a graduate degree. And so those are the types of people that you want to have. You also want to make sure you've asked their permission first before you list them so that they're not surprised when they get an email from us requesting that they be your reference. Once you have filled out the online application, including the references, you can go ahead and submit your application. This is something that we're really trying to get the word out about because we have a lot of people who think they have to wait until they have all their documentation and all the pieces of the puzzle together before they hit submit. And that's just not the case. You can actually submit the actual application online and pay the application fee. Then you can go and circle back later and submit the supporting documents once you have them. So that's really important to know. I've also listed the application website. It's just apply.grad.msstate.edu, and we can drop that in the chat for you as well. One other thing that we get questions about is about the supporting documents. It's typically going to be your transcripts and it's going to be your statement of purpose, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But with transcripts, if your transcript is going to be coming from Mississippi State, if that is where your undergrad is from, you don't have to submit that and you don't have to pay to have that submitted. We will pull that documentation ourselves. You're just going to list that when you're filling out the application that that's where your bachelor's degree is from. It'll ask you for your net ID or your MSU ID number, and we can use that to find you very quickly in the system and pull those transcripts ourselves. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the statement of purpose. I'm probably not going to read these bullet points to you specifically, but want them to be there for you. You can take a screenshot of that if you'd like, as good reminders and tips, but let's just talk through a few things. So a lot of people aren't really certain what the statement of purpose is, and how is that different than a personal statement that you see requested a lot of times? Well, the difference is that a statement of purpose is really all about what's your intention with this degree program that you're seeking. It's less about you and your life history and more about how you've made it to this point and what you intend to do going forward. So you want to always approach your statement of purpose as a professionally written letter. So you want to be concise, you want to be specific. Don't be vague. Anyone can say, I really enjoyed my undergraduate degree. I love learning. That means nothing to anyone. That doesn't tell us anything about you. What we want to know is, what did you enjoy about your undergraduate degree? Was there a particular class that really sparked your imagination about what you could do if you continued on this path? And so you want to be as specific and detailed as possible, but not overly wordy just to fill up the page. You got to remember, the people reviewing these applications are reviewing hundreds of applications. So you don't need to write a 4-page essay. Typically, I'd say maybe like 500 to 1,000 words is typically more than enough. But you don't want to, you just don't want to overdo it, right? And I would encourage you to really look at the departmental website and see if they have any requirements. Do they have a writing prompt, a question that they want you to answer specifically in your statement of purpose? Do they give you any formatting guidelines? They may not, but you need to be sure before you start this process. All right, so the other thing that I specifically want to mention is that in your statement of purpose, you need to clearly state what degree you're applying for. I know it seems obvious, but you would be shocked at the number of people who accidentally select the wrong degree program, and it creates a lot of trouble for them down the road. When you're filling out that application, you're going to click on a drop-down menu and it's going to let you pick what you want. Well, a lot of the titles of the programs are very similar. And so it's easy to see how somebody might accidentally pick the one above or below that they really intended. But if you've clearly stated what it is you want to get your degree in within your statement of purpose, we can fix that for you in our office. But if you haven't, then you're going to end up having to reapply and pay another application fee, and nobody wants to do that. So clearly state your degree in the statement of purpose. Tell the department why you're prepared for this degree, what makes you qualified for it. And some ways that you can do that is to share a little bit about your academic accomplishments from your undergraduate degree. Did you do any research as an undergrad? Did you help someone else with their research? Did you attend any academic conferences? Did you present at a conference? Were you a participant in any academic organizations or social organizations where you were able to enhance your leadership skills? Think through those things and how those skills are transferable to a degree program. If you are interested in a degree program that's going to require research, tell them the type of research you're interested in conducting. Is it something that's going to support the research they're already doing, or is it going to fill in a gap in research that doesn't currently exist? These are all good things and helps to sell you to the department. Lastly, always have someone, maybe multiple people, proofread your statement of purpose. Don't just depend on your own eyes to get it right. You cannot have grammatical errors in your statement of purpose. This is your first chance to showcase your qualities to a department. So you don't want to make simple, silly mistakes, especially when the competition can be steep. I would encourage you to check out the Writing Center on campus or the Career Center on campus. They have great staff and employees that can help you with proofing your statement of purpose and really making it a strong contender amongst the others. All right, and lastly, there is my information on the screen. I would encourage you to reach out to me if you have any questions. I'm happy to meet with you in person or virtually and talk to you about the application process and give you any tips or pointers that you might need as you pursue your graduate degree. Thank you so much, and I think that's all I've got right now. Let's open it up for questions, Orly. I think you're muted, Orly.
Tried to go away so the screen would be all on you. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Okay. So hopefully you all noticed I did put the links in there if you needed anything. And I think some of the questions that we have, can I go ahead and submit my application even if I don't have all the required documents yet?
Yes, yes, yes. And please do that. We want you to do that because that helps you to get your application moving. So yes, please go ahead, hit submit, pay the application fee. It's $60 for domestic students and it's $80 for international students. So please go ahead and knock those two things out, submit, pay the fee, then you can come back and submit your statement of purpose, your transcript, any other required documents later.
Okay, and here is a good one. How do I find a GA position?
Yay, that is a hot topic. Yes, everyone wants a GA position. Okay, so let's talk about that for a minute, Orly. There's 3 types of GA positions, okay? There's a GSA, which is like a service assistant. There's a GRA, which is research assistant. And then there's a GTA, that's a teaching assistant. So there are a lot of types out there, right? And so what that means is you do not have to get a graduate assistantship in your program. In fact, there aren't enough in the programs for everyone to have one. So you might have to get a GA-ship outside of your program. In our office, the graduate school office, we're located on the 6th floor of Allen Hall, and we have 8 graduate students that work for us as service assistants. So that means we pay 71% of their tuition and they receive a stipend, like a paycheck. TAs, they receive 71% as well. And then research assistants, they receive 100% tuition. So the trick is, how do I find these jobs? Well, it really takes a lot of legwork is what it is. You really need to think about where are some places on campus I wouldn't mind working. I wouldn't mind spending 20 hours a week helping that office, and then reach out to those individual departments because they may have their own application process. We do have an application on our website. You can go to the grad school website at grad.msstate.edu, and you'll see a link that says, I think it's funding and tuition. You can click on that and you'll see some ways that you can find additional scholarships and assistantships from that page.
Excellent. And so a question that has come up when you are submitting your application, who is actually doing the reviewing and the accepting of your application as a student?
Yeah, so that's a great question, actually, because it's very different than the undergraduate process, right? And so people are always floored when they hear what actually goes into it. So it's a 2-step review process. What you submit online comes to our office, the graduate school. And what we're doing is just checking to make sure that you meet the minimum requirements and the checklist of items that the degree program is requesting. There's transcripts. Some require a resume, some don't. So we check to see, have you met that requirement if that is one. Some require a writing sample, some do not. So that's kind of what we're kind of like the gatekeepers. Once we have all the information required, we push your application packet to the department. The department and the program within the department is the one that is actually reviewing your application. So that can look different depending on what you're applying to. You might have one program that has a 4-step review process, and they review the applications as they come to them. They go through 4 different reviewers within the program. They assign a decision and send it back to us, and we let you know. You may send it to a program that has a 1-person or a 2-person review process, right? And so it just depends. And it also depends, I'm gonna tie in the length of time it might take to get an answer falls into this equation, because some programs, like I said, will review as they receive the applications, but a lot of programs may only review once or twice a semester. So if you're an early bird and you submitted early, which we highly encourage you to do, you still may have to wait a while to get your answer. And so it just really depends on the actual program's process, and we don't control that.
Is that something, though, that when they've made that connection with your office, they can then connect again just to follow up on their individual college that they're applying to and program, so that they'll know
Yes.
personally what that will involve?
They can absolutely contact our office. We have 3 admissions assistants, and they are each responsible for different programs. And so you would be directed to your admissions assistant, and they could check your application status. But you can actually check your application status yourself by logging into your Bulldog portal, which is what you would set up when you're starting the application process. You create what's called the Bulldog portal, and you can log back into that as much as you want and watch the process take place. So that's
Okay.
helpful too.
Very good. And another question we have for you is, which programs have the larger numbers of graduate students?
Well, that too varies from year to year, but I would say right now it's going to be the MBA program within the College of Business and the College of Education. And the reason being that last year during COVID, you'll remember that the GRE and the GMAT were waived, and this opened the floodgates for applications. And then likewise with education, the praxis requirement had been waived. And so applicants flooded in both of those categories. So right now I would say those are probably the 2 that are kind of busting at the seams.
What's the status of that with the COVID situation and people's GREs and stuff?
Right. So currently at Mississippi State, it's determined institution by institution as to whether or not they will waive the GRE and GMAT. At Mississippi State, we've been being notified on a semester basis. So our office actually doesn't make that determination. That decision lives and is housed with the programs and departments. So the colleges make that determination. And so right now we have waived the GRE and GMAT through fall of this year. So through fall 2021, we have a link on our website. I think Orly just dropped it in the chat where you can go and check. It'll show you who is requiring a GRE and who is not. I think currently we only have about 5 programs, and they're either at the PhD level or the ed specialist level that is actually requiring the GRE. So, I mean, pretty much everything else, this is a hot time to get in grad school because you don't have to take that test. And I am hopeful that we won't have to require that in the future. But again, that's not my call, but we'll keep you updated on that website.
Okay. And I guess here we've got another question. How are enrollment numbers since the pandemic started? And what do you think they will look like for the fall?
Thank you, Michael Richardson, for that insightful question. Enrollment numbers have been fantastic since the pandemic. And traditionally speaking, if you look back over history, when the economy is good, undergraduate numbers increase. When the economy is bad, graduate numbers increase. So a lot of times the economy is driving enrollment in a lot of ways. And so, as you know, with the pandemic, many people were out of a job, laid off temporarily or permanently, industries shut down, et cetera. And so many students returned to school as, their next best option. And so it's a great time to come back to school because it's an opportunity to enhance your skill set yourself up for a better job going back into the workforce. So numbers have been tremendous. And then when you got rid of the GRE and the GMAT and then the praxis, that just compounded it. And so numbers have been tremendous, and we're really pleased about that. And going forward right now, things still look really good at the graduate level. We're super pleased. And we're excited to be growing so fast. We just got to keep up.
Okay, well, I think we have answered all the questions that have been posted. And are there some special things that you want folks to remember in particular about the application process?
Yeah, I think that's a great way to wrap it up. I would say a couple of things. When it comes to the application, the most important thing is pay attention to deadlines. You don't want to get caught off guard. Don't get sucked into the idea that the deadlines posted on the grad school website are the end all be all. They are not. You've got to check with the actual program. Then remember to apply early. The application process takes a while, but it also takes a while for you to get everything done, like writing that statement of purpose, securing your references. These are all things you need to be doing ahead of time. Don't just decide on Friday night that you want to apply to grad school and think you're going to knock it out the next day. That's really challenging and a lot of pressure on yourself. Lastly, be patient because the review process can take a very, very long time. And that's unfortunate, but it's just the way the system works. And it's because you are vying for a limited number of seats. And so the programs are going to be very diligent in reviewing the applicants before assigning decisions. And so you just have to be patient with that process. The other thing I would throw out there is if you have friends or if you want more information, we do host monthly Facebook Live sessions. And so that's a time where you can interact with myself and others in the office regarding the graduate school. We have representatives from our office as well as the online degree programs because, Mississippi State offers a little bit of everything. So if you're interested in graduate school, there's really no reason why you can't go. We have online classes, we have in-person classes, we have hybrid classes. There's a little bit of everything. And so we'll have representatives available to talk about that. Our next sessions are coming up on April 13th at 6 p.m. and again on April 20th at 10 a.m. And so that's a great time to log in and chat with us. We'll have current students to participate in that as well. And we give away free stuff.
Oh, even better.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Lindsey, for joining us. And thank you for everyone who was online with us and watched this. And we will put the recording out there on our webpage under Bulldog Bites. If you need to review any of the particulars that Lindsey gave us, it's a good time to start thinking about if that's the step you want to take. And please feel free to find her email online as well. And we wish you a great day and great rest of the week, and Hail State.
Hail State.